Good morning, everyone. We got a couple people live in person, quite a few online. So can you guys on Zoom hear me? I'm hoping. You hear me on Zoom?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Okay, good. Thanks, Rebecca. All right, so I'm going to just get going then, assuming you guys are good to go and hearing me and everything. So excited to get to be with you guys this morning and to share some thoughts with you. Now, here's what I will tell you. So of all the classes that I teach, this one is probably the one that I would say is the most beneficial, at least for me in my business. And I first learned this process that we're going to talk about in terms of working your sphere of influence. I first learned it, probably 20 years ago now. And I will tell you, of everything I have ever been taught, of everything that I have taught now for the last 15 plus years, what you're going to learn today, if you will do it, it is 100% guaranteed to work. So as we go through and we talk about this, if you've got questions and things, please stop me and ask. And you guys that are online, please interrupt and we'll talk about it. But just know that as we go through and talk about this stuff, if you will do what I'm going to tell you to do, it is guaranteed to work. 100% guaranteed. Like, of everything I teach, there's some stuff that I might not be able to be like, oh, I can guarantee if you would do this, it will work. But this, what we're going to talk about today, I 100% guarantee you it will work because it's a math problem. Now, and I'll say more about that, and I've got a video that I'm going to show you guys here in a little bit as well. But here's where I want to start with this. So as we go through, we're going to talk about working your sphere of influence. I first want to make sure you understand kind of just the whole premise of this. So I'm going to draw up here on the board. And so for you guys on Zoom, hopefully you can see it all right. I'm trying to write kind of big, but I will also explain what I'm writing down. So hopefully that you can understand it a little bit better. So the first thing that we got to talk about. So we're going to talk about three different areas up here. So there's three different groups or types of people that we're going to work with. Now, one of them is going to be our sphere of influence. The other two is what I want to talk about briefly first. So I first am going to talk briefly about two other groups of people that we're going to work with, but we're going to spend the majority of the time talking about our sphere of influence, which is the third column that we're going to go through. But in order to get there, I got to make sure you understand what the other two that we work with are. So the first one over here is what we would call a client. Now, I know some of you that are online and are newer licensed agents. And so part of what we're going to talk about in terms of this client thing does not necessarily fit in exactly with what you learned in real estate school. Meaning, when you went to real estate school, what did they teach you how to do?
Not get sued.
Yeah, basically to not get sued, right, Nick? So they're teaching you how to pass the test and to stay out of jail, essentially, right? Is what they were teaching you in real estate school. Well, that's great as far as keeping you out of jail, which is important, obviously. But the other side of things is they really didn't go and teach you how to get paid in real estate. And so that's where I want to go through and talk about with you. Now, in order to do that, though, there are four things that make someone a client. So you guys that are online, I've left you unmuted so that so please, if you will, just mute yourself if you've got other people around or something in the background that's going to be noisy. But feel free to unmute and answer questions as I ask them. But so there's four criteria that would make somebody a client. Now, in terms of when I talk about that, there's four criteria that make someone a client. Keep in mind there is the real estate school stuff, the division type of stuff that you learned is going to be included in that. But for me, when I'm talking about a client, I'm saying there's four things that have to happen in order for you to know you're going to get paid from a client. So what would be those things? And like I said, the first one, maybe two, you could use what you learned from real estate school as part of it, but that's not specifically what it is. But so there's four things that somebody has to do or be in order for them to be a client. What thoughts?
Procuring costs.
Okay, I've actually, Nick, I've never had anybody bring that up. I like that. So yeah, procuring cause is obviously going to be something in order for us to get paid is we got to have that chain of events that puts together. And I'm trying to think of how which column of the, or which of the four things I would throw that under.
Buying.
Okay, but I'm going to put that one in number 2. So let's hold for 1 second on that. Okay, so say it, Anna.
Have them hire you.
Okay, good, perfect. So I'm going to write it down on the board here as you. Now let me tell you how I want you guys to write it down. So if you're taking notes on this, this is how I want you guys to write it down. So good, yeah, I see online Andy said an exclusive contract. Perfect, that's right. So think of it this way. So I've got it written down as you. Here's how I want you guys to take, if you're taking notes on this, this is how I would recommend that you write it down. Is in order for you to have a client, the first thing that has to happen is this, and this is the way I would write it down. They have to be committed to working exclusively with you. So in order for you to have a client, the first thing that has to happen is they have to be committed to working exclusively with you. Okay, so in order for someone to be a client, they've got to be committed to working exclusively with you. Now, the way that they demonstrate that they are committed to working exclusively with you is by signing a contract. But the signing of the contract actually is not what makes them a client. Meaning, yes, from the division standpoint, somebody that signs a contract is your client, but it's possible for somebody to sign a contract with you. In fact, I can see we've got some people that are on here on the class that have been licensed for a little while. And I would guess, and you guys feel free to answer if you want to, but I would guess that they have had somebody sign a contract, maybe, and we'll let's say a buyer-broker agreement, that they're going to work with them as a buyer's agent, and then the client went and bought a house with somebody else. Think that's ever happened? Guaranteed. 100% guaranteed it's happened. Now, so the signing of the contract does not necessarily, now, well, let me actually pause for a minute. Why would somebody do that? And the reason is because they weren't really committed to working exclusively with that agent. So the first thing that has to happen for somebody to be a client is they have to be committed to working exclusively with you. Good. Now, the next thing that would come up, Nick said that they would have to have procuring cause. So here's how I'm going to write it down. I'm going to write it here and put it on my notes on the board here, just for the sake of space. I'm writing need. Here's how I want you to write it down. So for your notes, write it down. They have to have clear and present needs that can be met. So in order for somebody to be a client, they have to have clear and present needs that can be met. So in order for someone to be a client, they have to have clear and present needs that can be met. Now, what does that mean when I say that? So not to put all the pressure on the 2 people that are live here with me. So somebody on Zoom, unmute or type in your notes, something. If I said they have to have clear and present needs that can be met, what does that mean?
Means that you can help them, that they are ready to make a move or ready to do something, and you can fill that need.
Okay, good. Yeah, perfect. So when I say clear and present needs that can be met, I'm going to turn this down just a little bit here. When I say clear and present needs that can be met, that's right, is that they are clear on what it is that they, if let's talk for a buyer for a minute. If it's a buyer of a house, that they are clear as to what they want to buy, that it exists, and they can afford to do it, and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead. Oh, I thought somebody was saying something.
And also that you will, they have to feel confident that you as an agent are going to find the house that they're looking for. So meet their expectations.
Yeah, good. Yeah, and to some extent, and I would say that ties to number 1. So I'm not sure that on the Zoom heard, so I want to restate. So what she was saying is they have to feel confident in you as the agent to be able to do it. And I would include in that you understand what it is that they want. See, we'll talk in a different class, in the needs analysis class, which I think is like not next week, but the next week, if I remember right. In that class, we'll talk about how part of the problem, the frustration that people have with an agent is that they feel like the agent doesn't understand them. So what you're saying is right on, is that you don't understand what it is that they're looking for. And so therefore they will then go and find someone else. See, a lot of times when I said people would sign a contract and then go use another agent, it is because they felt like we didn't understand what they were trying to accomplish, and so they go do something else. So good. All right. So they're committed to working exclusively with you. They have clear and present needs that can be met. Now, what else? What other things would we need to have in order for them to be a client or do or be or whatever?
Knowledge that feel like, okay, this agent is knowledgeable, makes sense what she's or he's saying, I feel comfortable.
Okay, good.
Stuff like this person well. But experience. So when they feel like, okay, I have the best agent, well experienced and knowledgeable. So they feel, why would they drop you? Why would they find somebody else when they have?
Okay, good. Yeah, so they've got to feel comfortable, which I'm going to say that's up here in the U. So you're right on. So they've got to feel comfortable with you, but then that's what it's going to make them committed to using you. Good. What else? What other? The next two are a little bit harder. Go ahead.
I would say closing. You don't actually have them until you get paid, which is at closing.
Okay, good. I like that. I like the idea of that closing. And then it looks like Cindy said online, she said they have to be realistic. And I would throw that into the clear and present needs that can be met, meaning that that's what makes it realistic, is because it's can be met. So good. And so let's see. So Brandon, you said closing. I'm trying to think where I would throw that in, because I don't know. Well, okay. Actually, I'm going to put that as number 3. I'm going to call it something different, but you're right on. Here's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to write it down as now. Now, for you, here's how I would say to put it in your notes. They have to be committed to buying or selling. So either one, either selling or buying. They have to be committed to buying or selling now. Now, in order for someone, and so that's just it. Well, that's where when you're saying closing and getting paid, that is exactly right. They've got to be committed to buying or selling now. Now, when is now?
The present moment that you are working with that client.
Good, yeah, at the present moment. So see, sometimes when I ask that question and say, when is now, people will say 3 months, 6 months, 2 months, 1 month, tomorrow morning. And for me, now just means, and let me explain it, if they're committed to working exclusively with you, they have clear and present needs that can be met. What now means is when we come across that property that meets those needs, those clear and present needs, that they will act on it. That's what now means. So it doesn't necessarily mean tomorrow morning, but it means when we come across a property, or if it's a seller, when we get an offer in, that you're not going to all of a sudden kind of go, oh, well, I don't know if we would really want to do it. So now just means that when we come across that, they're willing to do it. Now I noticed online, Cindy said qualified. Yeah, and Cindy, I would throw that in with the clear and present needs that can be met. That's the can be met part of it, is what I would say, is they have to be qualified, which is what makes it that those clear and present needs can be met. So good, thank you. All right, the last one I'm just going to give you because it's a little bit harder. And otherwise we'll be here all day while you guys guess. So I'm just going to give it to you. But the fourth thing that has to happen, and this is about the management of clients. See, here's where a lot of times agents get themselves in trouble, is because of number 4 with a client. In my opinion, this is actually more about how you keep your client, really. Meaning we talk about this, they're committed to working exclusively with you, they have clear and present needs that can be met, they're committed to buying or selling now. Well, this one's about making sure you keep them. And the way I'm going to write it down, and I'll tell you guys what to write, but they have to be tethered. What is tethered? The word tethered, what does that mean?
Attached.
Yeah, good. So Nick, it means they're attached or tied to. Now, so how would we have our clients tied to us? And it's not through what we would typically think, which is we would say through a contract. That's not the way we tie them to us. Meaning, again, from the division standpoint, it is how they get tied to us. But as far as you getting paid, that's not how you keep them tied to you. Because as I already said, there are people who will sign it and then go use somebody else. So typically the reason is going to be because they didn't have their client tethered to them. Go ahead, Anna.
Being in communication with that client. Oh,
Your relationship.
Okay, good. Yeah. So Brianna said relationship. Anna was saying through communication.
Right.
Now, here's how I'm gonna have you write it down. Is the way that we keep our clients tethered to us is through appointments. So you can't have a client if you don't have an appointment with them, is how I look at it. Now, again, from the standpoint of the division, if you've signed a contract with them, they're your client, you've got that fiduciary duties. But from the standpoint of you getting paid from them, I'm telling you, anybody that you have that is a client, you should never, ever leave an appointment with a client without scheduling the next appointment. That's how we keep them tethered, is every time you get done meeting with a client, you schedule the next appointment. And here's part of where I learned this. Most dentists, when you go to the dentist, before, at least the ones that I've gone to, before I leave the dentist's office, they schedule the next appointment. They just say, hey, let's get you scheduled for 6 months out. Now, that's genius on the dentist's part, because I think a lot of people will leave the dentist thinking, well, okay, I need to make sure I get back again in 6 months. But if they don't have an appointment, they probably aren't going to remember to do it. So for me, that's where I started thinking this of like, what if what we as agents did is every time we got done with an appointment, we just, with someone that's a client, we just schedule the next appointment. Now, part of that is tied to this. You're going to hear me talk in other classes about this, but I just have this belief that we are not in the business of selling houses. I mean, yes, we are, but if we really get down to getting paid and getting paid a lot of money in this business, what we're in the business of is what I like to refer to as the next relevant steps business. See, your job with every person you meet with, whether they're a client or these other categories that we're going to talk about here, your job is just to get them to take the next relevant step. That's all it is. So what I mean by that is, let's say that I go and get on the phone and I'm prospecting to make phone calls. What is the first relevant step that I need to get people to make as I'm prospecting? Someone online, unmute yourself and share what am I doing? What's the first relevant step?
You are trying to get an appointment with that person.
Perfect. Yeah. So Anna's helping you guys out. I'm trying to pick on you guys online, and Anna keeps saving you, but that's okay. But yeah, your first relevant step is to get an appointment. Now, actually, technically, we could even back that up, because I think there's something even before that. Is my job first is to get them to actually share with me what their needs and wants are, or to build a connection and get some rapport is kind of what my first relevant step is. Once I've done that, then it's an appointment. Then after
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but so just a quick question about that. So should we be actively trying to make appointments with everyone in our SOI, regardless of their immediate need to buy or sell, in order to make that connection?
Yeah, great question, Erin. I'm going to have you hold that for a minute. I'm going to answer that later on. If you feel like I don't as we get into the class, then stop me and ask that again, because that is a very relevant thing that I want to talk about, but I want to cover a few other things first. Is that all right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Perfect. Yeah, but don't let me forget. If for some reason you feel like I don't answer it, let me know. Okay. All right. So think of it this way. Your job is just always getting people to take the next relevant step. Well, part of us getting them to take the next relevant step is to keep, once we've gotten they're committed to working exclusively with you, they have clear and present needs that can be met, and they're ready to do it now. The way we're going to keep that to make sure it happens is we got to keep setting next appointments with them. We're constantly just setting an appointment to go out and let's say that it's for listing. We go out and look at the house, and we're going to do a CMA, and then we're going to come back and present the CMA. After we present the CMA, we're going to hopefully get them to sign the contract. Well, after they sign the contract, now we need to get the photography, and we got to get the seller disclosures. Like, there's just constantly things that you can be setting an appointment for. And for me, I'm going to constantly be setting that next appointment. And with my client, that sometimes that next appointment is, we're going to get back together in 3 or 4 weeks to evaluate our price and see what we need to do to make a change with that. And I schedule that price reduction appointment with them at the time of the listing. Don't wait for 3 or 4 weeks and then call them and say, hey, now we ought to talk about a price reduction. So that's what this is. All right. So now that we understand that, let's go to the next area. The next area is what we would call a prospect. Now, here's how I would define a prospect. Prospects are becoming, so think of it this way, prospects are becoming clients. Go ahead.
I'm gonna stop you for a minute. Oh, how do you want us to write?
Oh, number 4 is just, yeah, thank you. Sorry, Anna's asking how to write down under tethered. What I would say is you can't have a client without having an appointment. Meaning, so if you leave an appointment with a client and you don't schedule the next appointment, in my mind, now not the division's mind, this is me and making sure you get paid, you don't have a client anymore because you didn't schedule an appointment. You need to schedule an appointment. In my mind, you now have a prospect, you don't have a client. Okay, now, so let's talk about that. Okay, so think of it as prospects are becoming clients, or prospects are going to become what we'll talk about over here in the SOI, or prospects are becoming what we'll call down here dropped. We're just going to drop them. We're going to get rid of them, okay? Now, so let's go through this. A prospect is deficient, meaning they're missing one of these 4 items. So if you have somebody you think is a client, but they don't fit into these 4 categories, in my mind, I'm telling you, you still have a prospect, you don't have a client. So a prospect is deficient in one or more of these areas. So let's say that the one that they're deficient in is this tethered, meaning you don't have an appointment. Then what should I do? How should I manage them? Because they're now not a client, they're a prospect in my mind. So what do I do to try to get them to become a client? Meaning, because remember, prospects are becoming something else. So what would I need to do?
Keep in contact with them
Perfect. That's exactly right. Is I need to keep in contact with them until when?
until they're ready.
Yeah, thank you. Until I get an appointment, then they're a client. So if the way I manage clients is through appointments, how am I going to manage prospects, which you just said?
Touching base every so often.
That's right. It's through contact. How often though?
It's up to the client.
But what should be the minimum on a prospect? What's the minimum contact? Somebody on Zoom, what's the minimum contact we should have?
Quarterly?
Not for a prospect, I would not say quarterly.
Okay.
I would say just depending on how soon they're thinking of buying or selling, because if they're thinking maybe in the next month, I will be contacting them every week.
Okay, good. So think of it this way. What you're saying is right on. You got, and you were right on as well, Brianna, what you're thinking. But remember, a prospect in my mind is becoming. It's either becoming a client, becoming what we'll talk about over here, or just I'm getting rid of them. And so the prospect, I should have contact 1 time per week minimum. So a prospect, the way I'm going to manage prospects, another way you could think of it is I could write up here and call it a lead. The way you're going to manage your leads is you should be having contact at minimum once a week until they become a client or until they become what we're going to talk about next, which I'm going to term it over here. We'll call them a suspect. Okay, so we've talked about clients. We now just talked about prospects. Now we're going to talk about suspects, or really, truthfully, the better way of calling it would be your SOI, your sphere of influence, okay? So think of it this way. When you get a lead, you're going to call them every week until they either become a client, they become part of your SOI, or you just flat out get rid of them, okay? And the way that they become a client is that they have clear and present needs that can be met, they're committed to working exclusively with you, and they're committed to buying or selling now. That's how they become a client. If that's not the case, or as what Aaron was implying by saying if they're going to do something in the next month, I'm going to stay in touch with them every week. Well, if they're not, then now I'm going to stay in touch with them differently, because somebody who says to you, hey, I'm not going to buy for the next 2 years or 1 year, like you're probably not going to want to call. Like if you called them once a week, what's going to happen? Yeah, pretty soon they're like, leave me alone. So now we've got a separate way we're going to handle those. So the rest of this class, we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about these suspects, or the SOI is really what I call it, is how to work your SOI. So with that in mind, let's go through and we're going to talk about now this. Now, before we do that, I've got a video I'm going to show you guys first, because as we go through and talk about this, we're going to use some numbers, we're going to do some math. But so first, let me, I got to get the screen down and the projector turned on in the room here. And then I'll get it to where you guys online can see it as well. All right, let me get the screen share going here so you can see this video. Now, let me explain it to you before I play it here, because I know many of you probably have no clue who this is, and that's okay. So what I'm going to show you real quick here is this is a video that was from back when TV was black and white, and what this show was, this was a sitcom, and it was called Mom Pa Kettle. So I'm going to show you this Mom Pa Kettle video for just a minute, because we're gonna, as part of me teaching you how to work your sphere of influence, remember I said to you that it is 100% guaranteed to work? It's 100, like if you will do what I'm going to teach you, it is 100% guaranteed to work. Now, as I go through and explain it though, there's going to be one point that you're going to think that I'm doing George Bush fuzzy math, or what we're going to see here on this Mom Pa Kettle math. So I got to show you the video, because then you'll appreciate the math here.
I figure 75% to you, Pon Ma, and 25% divided between the 5 of us. Gida, Crowbar, myself, Tom, and the baby. That makes 5% for each one of us.
Billy, you're cheating yourself. If there's 25% divided among the 5 of you, that's 14% apiece.
Oh, no, listen, Pa. I wouldn't cheat you. You know I wouldn't. Now, look here. I'll show you. Let me rub this out here. And now, 25 divided by 5 is 5. You see, 5 won't go into 2, will it? No. But 5 goes into 25 5 times, you see?
No, you're wrong, Billy. Now, I'm a pretty good mathematician. Now, 5 into 25... 5 won't go into 2, will it?
No.
But 5 goes into 5 once. Now, we didn't use the 2 before, so we bring it down here. Now, 5 into 20 goes 4 times. There you are. 5 into 25, 14.
No, look, Pa. Let me prove it to you now by multiplication. 5 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25.
Really, I'm surprised you're learning.
Huh?
I'm surprised that you're learning. Now I'll show you. 5 times 14 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20. 5 times 1 is 5. 25. That's it.
No. Look, Ma. See, look, you're wrong there, because I'll prove it to you. We'll put down 5 14s here. 14. There. Now I'll prove to you by addition that 5 14s is not 25. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25. There you are. Better brush up, Billy. I don't want to see you boys cheated.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some math here in a little bit that you're going to see that you're going to feel like maybe I'm doing Mom Pa Kettle math, and it actually, and I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. But I'm not. It's not Mom Pa Kettle math, okay? But it is a math problem, and if you will follow the math on it. So we're going to talk about 2 types of systems today. We're going to talk about an open system and a closed system. And the problem that most people have working their sphere of influence is they treat it as an open system. And I'm going to show you why that's a flaw. And if you would change it to a closed system, it is 100% guaranteed to work. And I'm going to prove it to you through the math. Now, before we do that, I want to show you one other thing here that I want to share with you guys online that hopefully emphasizes the importance of working your sphere of influence. So let me share with you this screen here. Let me get this pulled up here. All right. This is so NAR does a survey of home buyers and sellers every single year, where what they do, and actually they started right now. So it's in July of every year that they do this. You're looking at the 2019 profile of home buyers and sellers. They start this, so the 2020 one is starting right now. It'll start in July. They start sending out surveys to people who have bought and sold homes over the last year. Then from July until September, they work to get people to respond to the surveys. Well, once September hits, then they start taking the data and compiling it, and then they will release it in November. So what you're looking at came out in November. So this is the most recent survey of the home buyers and sellers. Now, as you look at this specifically is talking about how sellers chose their real estate agent. Now, when you look at this, what does that tell you?
Referrals are on top.
Yeah, that the number one way for you to get a seller to list their home with you, above all, 39% of the time, the way that the sellers chose their agent that they used was either a referral or was a friend, neighbor, or relative. Now, what's the second best way?
Same agent as before.
Yeah, they used the agent previously, right? So in my mind, those two added together become your sphere of influence because your past client, in fact, if you watched Morning Ascent today, Rebecca talked about on Morning Ascent how she had over 400 or 500 closings and she hadn't kept track of any of those people. Well, yeah, those people should be in your sphere of influence. Now, it's interesting to me that only 27% of the people selling their home used the agent previously. That means only about a quarter of the time, a little over a quarter of the time to a third, did they use the agent who they bought the home from. Now, why?
You referred someone else.
But and because the agent who helped them buy the house didn't stay in touch with them. That is the biggest problem that we have is we don't stay in touch. Now, take those two out, what do you notice? What's the third best way to pick up a client or seller?
Phone calls and emails.
Nope, there's one better.
Other.
I just don't know what that is. I would teach a class on that. Hey guys, can you imagine? Hey, we're gonna be teaching a class on other today. Teach you how to get listings by other. I don't know what other is, but that's the third best way. Like it's better than all these other ways of getting the listing. So hopefully what you're seeing from this is you have got to be working your sphere of influence because 66% of the time, if you add those two together, the top two, 66% of the time or 2/3 of the time, the way that the people are choosing the agent they're going to list with is because they are a friend, neighbor, or relative or referred by a friend, neighbor, or relative. So you got to do that. Okay, well maybe buyers. Let's see what that looks like. So this one's the buyer. What do you notice? Same thing, right? The way that they're choosing their agent is because of a referral or is a friend, neighbor, or relative 41% of the time. 12% of the time they use the agent previously. So 53% of the time they're choosing their buyer's agent because of a referral or is a friend, neighbor, or relative. Now, this one, the one I always have to point out on this, I love how it says for first-time home buyers, 2% use the agent previously. Do you see the irony in that? They're a first-time home buyer. I don't know how you could be a first-time home buyer if you use the agent previously. Anyway, I don't get it. But here's the point. The third best way on this is other again. So like the top 3 ways to get clients is referred buyer is a friend, neighbor, or relative. They use the agent previously or other. And I don't know what other is. So we kind of got to leave that one out. But notice the rest of these just kind of, it's like, you just got to do something basically. All right, let me quit sharing here, get the screen and everything put back up in here, and turn the lights back on. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go through and talk about that. So remember I told you that this is a math problem and that it's guaranteed to work if you will follow what I'm going to teach you. Now, so there's 2 types of systems, okay? Now, before I get into this systems thing, I got to explain one other piece to you, and then I'm going to go through and help you understand open and closed systems. In fact, I'm going to give you the foundation of the problem to these open systems, which that's the issue that people have working their sphere of influence. So I, as a brand new agent, I remember I got my license. I went to my broker and I said, tell me what to do. And he said, okay, if you'll go knock on doors for the next 2 years for 2 hours every day, you'll never have to do it again. I said, great. I went and started knocking on doors. But here's the other thing he told me, is he gave me this formula here. He gave me this formula that said this: if you talk to 100 people, you should get 10 leads out of that should turn into 1 transaction. Now, this is a very common thing that gets told throughout our industry. And in fact, and I probably should have told you this before I showed you the charts that we just looked at, but there's 2 types of data. There's empirical data and there's anecdotal data. Anecdotal data is the stories we tell. Empirical data is like real data. What I just showed you from NAR is the actual true data of how people choose. Now, but in our business, there's this thing that has said that if you haven't heard, you will, but that if you talk to 100 people, you should get 10 leads, and from those 10 leads should turn into 1 transaction. Well, that sounds pretty good. But now I've shared with you guys, and those that I haven't shared, you'll hear me share this at another time, but for the sake of time, I'm not going to share this entire story. But I was making 250 contacts a week. I would do 50 a day, so 250 per week. And according to this formula, I should have been getting, let's just follow it. If I did 250 contacts, I should have gotten 25 leads from that. And from that, I should have got 2.5 transactions. Well, let me tell you, I was doing 250 contacts a week, and I was nowhere near 2.5 transactions per week. When I said remember, when I said I should have been doing 2.5 transactions, that should have been per week. So let's just say in a month, I should have been doing 10 transactions a month or 120 transactions a year. Well, I was nowhere near that. So what was the problem? Well, the problem is the lack of understanding of how this works. So what I'm going to show you is how this works and what the flaw is in an open system. So let's say, I'll just do it this way. Now, again, using some empirical data, and I went and researched this, according to the census that it gets done on the population, that 12% of the population will move every year. So if you just look at the population as a whole, 12% is going to move. But now that includes people that are renters as well. So if you factor out renters out of that, what it is it ends up being 7% of the people are going to be buying or selling a home every year across the country. This is nationwide, okay? Now, if that's true, which it is, then out of 100 people, how many transactions would come out of it if 7% of the people are going to be buying or selling a home? So in fact, let's do it this way. Let's say out of 1,000, if 7% of those, how many transactions would that create? This right. Oh. Okay, so Aaron says 7 transactions. Now, remember I told you I did mom pa kettle math for you for a minute? So it actually ends up being 140. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Now, why? Why is it 140 instead of 70?
2 sides to the transaction.
That's right, good. Because for every transaction, there are 2 sides. There's a buy side and a sell side. So that's why I was saying it kind of looks like I'm doing mom pa kettle math by saying it's 14 out of 100 instead of 7 out of 100 is because there's 2 sides to it. Okay. Now, before I forget, make sure you guys that are online, throw your name in the chat box so I can print it off to have a record of who is in class, and then I'll give to you guys this. Fill out. Okay. So yeah, just if you'll put your first and last name in there, because again, I've got one on here that just said, oh, they're gone now, but there was one that just said iPhone, and I've never figured out who that was last time. So, all right. Okay, so that's the problem with this, is that what happens is this. So essentially where this came from, this whole idea of saying that if you talk to 100 people, 10 there should be 10 leads that come from that. Where that comes from is this. The basis of it is true, by the way, is because the basis of it is based on, if you talk to 100 people, 7% of those people should be in the process of buying or selling a home. And so as a result of that, that's where kind of you're just going, to make the numbers look good, it really is what it is it made it easier for brokers to just say 110-1 than to say 114-1 or whatever. I mean, honestly, I think that's my opinion of where this came from, this 110-1. Now, that sounds good though. And remember, I already said to you that I was doing 250 contacts a week, which means I should have been getting 25 leads per week, which I may have done. But of that, I should have gotten 2.5 transactions per week, which was not happening. And so what I'm going to show you is here's the flaw, because people look at this and think this looks good. But I'm going to share with you what it actually says. Now, this part of the class is a little bit harder to train you on we've got enough people online watching and things. So I'm going to get you guys, I haven't tried this via Zoom, I don't think this way yet. So I'm going to try it and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to use the 2 that are here live in class, and I'm going to pick on some of you guys because I got to get to 10, okay? So I'm going to pick on some of you guys, and I'm just going to go in alphabetical order. So, well, maybe I'll just go alphabetical. All right, so I'm going to go, so a couple of you might get left out, and don't feel bad. It's just your parents should have put you with a name. Your first name should have been higher in the alphabet, okay? All right. Now, watch what happens, because here's what it says. Now, if this is true, that out of 100 people, 10 leads should turn into 1 transaction. Essentially, what that says is 1 out of 10 should work, is the way we interpret it, is that 1 out of 10 should turn into a deal. But that's not actually what it says. It says something different. So we're going to talk about odds now for a little bit, and I'm going to explain to you the difference between an open system and a closed system. And once you understand this difference, it'll change the way you approach the business, because it's so true. Now, so let me show you what I mean. Now, watch what happens here. So let's say that I go and I knock on Nick's door and I talk to him about buying or selling a home. He tells me no. So now I go to Andy and talk to her, and she tells me no. So I've talked to 2 people. So let's get some more here. Let's see. Okay. So I go to Liz here, and I guess alphabetically the reason Liz is showing up is she's unmuted. So if you guys at the bottom want me to call on you, unmute, I guess. All right. So I go to Liz and I say to Liz, hey, you thinking about buying or selling a home? And she tells me no. So I've been told no 3 times now. Okay. So now I go to Alex. He tells me no. There's 4. Andrew, he tells me no. Andy, he tells me no. Now I'm at 6. Brianna, she tells me no. 7. Cindy tells me no. 8. Devin, he tells me no. 9. Okay. So now the next person is Eric. If what this said is true, what should happen when I get to Aaron?
Yes, right?
Yeah, as soon as I get to Aaron, she's going to tell me yes, right? Is that it? You guys tell me, is that what's going to happen? Don't be shy. Unmute. Is that what's going to happen?
Maybe statistically, but obviously not every time.
Yeah, so why? But if that's true, if I talk to 10 people and I should get 1, and let's do it, essentially it's saying if I talk to 10 people, I should get a lead.
If you think of the law of averages, it's not a law of repetition, a law of averages. So on average, yes, I would say yes, but on repetition, potentially no.
Can't hear you very well, but I got the gist of what you're saying. I can't hear you very well, but I got the gist of it. What she said, in case you guys missed it, was this. According to the law of averages, that should work. But in reality, that's not what happens. Now, there is something, and we're not going to get this deep into math, so don't panic. We're getting about as deep as we're going into math. But There is something called the regression towards the mean, is basically what Aaron was saying. Is there's a regression towards the mean that basically says that averages will balance themselves out. But here's the problem with that. You're going to have to talk to so many people, like you would have to talk to 100,000 people before these numbers started to actually come together because of this law of averages that she said, or this regression towards the mean. So let's forget all the math stuff for a minute. Let me just explain to you what this is really saying. What this is really saying is this. When I go to Nick and I go to talk to him about real estate, according to this, what are the odds that he's going to say no? The odds are what?
9 to 1.
That's right. The odds are 9 to 1 when I get to Nick that he's going to say no. Okay, so now I leave and I go to Anna. What are the odds?
Still 9 to 1.
Still 9 to 1. See, this is the part that is the piece that most people miss, is because they think that the odds just went to 8 to 1 because I talked to somebody else, but that's not true. The odds don't change based on the number of times that you do it. So once I talked to Nick, it was 9 to 1. Now I get to Anna, it's 9 to 1. Now I come back over here to the list here, and I go and I see Brianna here. What are the odds?
9 to 1.
9 to 1. Then Liz.
Same.
9 to 1. And Alex, 9 to 1. Andrew, 9 to 1. Andy, 9 to 1. Cindy, 9 to 1. Devin, 9 to 1. Aaron, 9 to 1. Yvette, what are the odds? 9 to 1. Rebecca.
9 to 1.
All right, how about Ryan?
9 to 1.
Okay, Tishwan.
Also 9 to 1.
Notice the odds don't get, see, if you really look at what, this sounds good till you really understand what it says. What this really is saying is the odds are stacked against you 9 to 1 for every person you talk to. Isn't that exciting? No, it's not. That's an open system. See, I've got a dice here, so hopefully you guys can see it all right online here. I'll try to eat really hard. All right. I've got this dice here. What are the odds? So pick a number.
1.
Okay, 1. So Nick picked number 1. What are the odds when I roll this dice that I'm going to roll a 1?
1 out of 6.
So yeah, it should be 1 out of every 6 times. But is that what happens?
Nope.
Now again, if I rolled it 100,000 times, it's probably what's going to happen. But let's try it right now and see how many times do I. So Nick, will you keep track? Do some little tick marks,
Yeah.
or you can just remember in your head. It's fine too. But here's what I want you guys to do. I'm going to roll this, and I'm going to see how many times I have to roll it to get a 6, or excuse me, a 1. Okay. Okay, there's a 5. So keep track of how many times. This is where I get my exercise. Okay, we got a 1. So how many times do I have to roll it? Twice. Okay, so now let's do it again and see how long it takes. There's a 6, 5, 2, 4. All right, how many times have I rolled it?
5 times.
Okay, so I should get a 1 right now, right? I got a 2, 3. This is how I get my exercise in class, do my squats. How many times have I rolled it, Nick?
9.
I've rolled it 9 times and we still haven't gotten a 1. This is what real estate feels like, by the way. Because this is what happened to me, is my broker told me, hey, I just got the 1. My broker told me this thing here. So I go out and start knocking on doors and I got what we just had, what you just did. So how many times did I roll?
12, I think.
I had to roll it 12 times to get a 1. See, that's the problem with this. It sounds good, but if you actually understand odds and how they work, what it really says is every person you talk to, there's a 90% chance they're going to tell you no. But the problem is we think, well, that's great. Then when I get to the next person, I'm more likely to get a yes. That is not true. Because the odds are still 9 to 1 against you every single time you do it. See, that's the problem with working an open system. In an open system, what happens is the odds never get better. Now, I told you I was going to teach you about two types of systems. So let me teach you the second type of the system, and that's called a closed system. All right. In a closed system, our odds, so on this, that was a 9-to-1 against us. But in a closed system, the odds actually, we can get them to continually to get better and better and better. So let me show you how this works. In fact, since I'm using the dice, that's how Vegas works, by the way. In fact, it's been interesting that with the shutdown and stuff, I know Vegas is kind of reopening now, I guess. But the only thing that matters to them is that people show up and put money in the machine. Like, they don't care if somebody wins. Like, they're not hurt, meaning like they're not sad if somebody wins. In fact, they're happy when somebody wins because the reason Vegas works is they understand odds. And the odds are in their favor. So the more money that people put into machines or on tables, the more money they make. What kills them, and not just the fact that people aren't taking up the hotel rooms, but what kills them is if nobody's putting money in a machine or on the table. Because if there's no money going in the machine or on the table, they don't win. But as long as there's money on the table or the machine, the odds are set up to where they win. The odds are in their favor. See, they understand odds. And hopefully after this discussion, you guys will understand odds and you can use them to your favor. Okay, so now watch this. We're going to do the same exercise where what we're going to do is we're going to try to get a 1. Only this time, we're going to change this from being an open system to a closed system. Now, because this is my game, I can do this. Don't try this on Vegas or you will end up somewhere out in the desert with I guess I'll just say it that way. So don't go try this in Vegas because it won't work, okay? But because it's your real estate career and you get to decide how you want to do business, you can do this in your career. That's the good news. Now, so here's the rules of the game. What I'm going to do is the same thing. I'm going to roll this, but every time I roll it and I don't get a 6, count that. So you're going to count it if I roll it and it's not, or I keep saying 6, a 1. If it's not a 1 and I roll it, count it. Unless there's a sticker on it. Once I roll a number and it's not a 1, I'm going to put a sticker on it. And then if I roll that again and the sticker shows up, I get a free throw. So don't count. Does that make sense? Now watch. Now let's see what happens. So we're going to see how many times I have to roll it to get a 1. Okay, there's the 6. So now, to count that one, so I've rolled it 1 time. But now if the 6 shows up again, it doesn't count. Okay, all right, here we go. Okay, so there's a 5. So now I'm going to put a sticker on a 5. So we've got a sticker on the 6 and the 5. We rolled it twice. There's the 1. All right, how many times do we have to roll it? 3. So we rolled it 3 times to get a 1. Now let's see what happens the next time. Okay, free throw. It's a sticker, so don't count. There's a 3. So now I'm going to put a sticker on it. There's the 1. Okay, so we rolled it how many times? 2 times. Okay, so we rolled it twice. Now let's keep going. Okay, there's a 1. So we rolled it 1 time. Do it again. There's a 2. So I'm going to throw a sticker on it. So we've rolled it once. Free throw. Free throw. Free throw. 4. So now I'm going to put a sticker on it. Maybe if I can get the sticker off the paper. All right. Now every side is covered except for the 1. So what's going to happen? All right. Give me a 1 so I don't have to keep it in there. Come on. There we go. All right. How many times did I roll that one? Twice or once?
3. Or twice.
Twice. Okay. What's going to happen now, though? How many times am I going to have to roll it to get a 1?
Once.
Yeah. From now on, it's 1, 1, 1. Like I can sit and do it. It's either a free throw or a one every time. How would you like to do real estate that way? I'm going to teach you how right now. Okay. Because that's the difference. See, in a close, now here's what I want you guys to notice is this. So let me show you something. And what this looks like here is this. The process looks something like this. And it's not going to show up very well for the people online. So let me try this. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. What it's going to do is something like this. Okay. Now, what I've just drawn up here is the learning curve. What the process of you getting to this, so what you just saw is a good example of what building your sphere of influence is going to probably look like. Meaning, when I first started with no stickers on this, what the odds were what? 1 out of 6. But you already saw that's an open system. That doesn't mean I'm only going to have to roll it 6 times. That means every time I roll it, the odds were 1 out of 6. Well, as soon as I put a sticker on it, the odds went, as soon as I put the first sticker on, the next time I rolled it, the odds went to 1 out of 5. And then the next time I rolled something that wasn't a 1, I kept seeing 6 still, but every time I rolled it, it was not a 1. I put a sticker on it, the odds got better. Then they went to 5 to 1, then they went to 4 to 1, 3 to 1, 2 to 1, 1 to 1. So keep in mind that this process I'm going to show you is, at first, you're still dealing with the 9 to 1 odds, basically, where it's 90% against you, 10% for you. But every time you do it, and the more you do it, it's all of a sudden then going to take off and get better, okay? Now, so the process of this to get to this point right here is typically going to take somewhere between 6 and 9 months. Okay, and I'll say more about that. But this is what the process I'm going to teach you in is you're not going to, when I said it's 100% guaranteed to work, then it is 100% guaranteed to work, but you got to follow the process, and it's typically going to take 6 to 9 months. But from the point that you hit this 6 to 9 months, and I'm not saying you can't get business along the way, so don't hear that. That's not what I'm saying. But to where you can in fact, again, if you were on Morning Ascent, Rebecca talked about this morning that her business is exclusively off of her sphere of influence, and she does a lot of business. Well, here's the good news. You can get there too, but it's going to take you 6 to 9 months before you can rely on this system only. So I guess what I'm saying to you is this. If you will follow the process I'm going to teach you, it's 100% guaranteed to work, but it's going to take 6 to 9 months before I can say the guarantee is working, because you got to do some things. Now, let me explain that real quick. How much do you guys know? Does anybody online or are you guys in person know anything about growing bamboo or how it grows? Anybody know online? I got shakes of no in person.
A little bit. I know it grows really fast.
Hey, yeah, thank you for saying that, Brianna, because I love when people say it that way, because the truth is it does grow really fast once it starts to grow. But do you know how long it has to germinate before it starts to grow like that fast? 4 years.
Wow.
It is 4 years in the ground with nothing happening above the surface. You don't see it. But then when it does grow, what Brianna said is correct. Within a matter of weeks, it shoots up to like 80 feet tall or 90 feet tall in a matter of weeks. So we think, oh, bamboo grows really, really fast. Except for that we forgot that the 4 years that it sat there and nothing, like if you planted the seed for 4 years, you're going out there watering it, pulling the weeds and going, this isn't working. How many of you would keep doing that for 4 years before you're like, screw it, I'm not doing it anymore, right? Now, so here's the thing. So this is, before we go on, I want to pause for a minute. Here's what I will tell you. I will be teaching this class about once every 3 months. My recommendation for you is come to this class every time I teach it. And I say this every time. Like in my mind, this class, we've got 15 people that shows online right now and 2 in person. So I got 17 people here. If you guys will follow what I'm telling you right now and come to this class every time I teach it until it's working for you, it will work. But here's the problem. You come, I promise you, I have taught this now for 15 years, so I know exactly what is going to happen. Now, I'm a little bit trying to challenge you guys. Like I'm intentionally throwing down the gauntlet on you like a little bit. Like I want you to go, no, I'm not going to be the one. But, or maybe that you are going to be the one. It's probably a better way of saying it. How many people, I already know the answer for in-person class. So you guys online, and I think I know the answer online as well. If you have attended this class before, put a note in the chat box. I think there might be one person, maybe. I might be wrong. Okay, Yvette said on YouTube. Okay, good. Glad you're watching live then, Yvette. Tushwan, good. Okay, good. Hey, I'm good. Actually, Tushwan was not the one I thought maybe had attended, so thank you for being here. Okay, good. I promise you, here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit here and watch this. You're going to get really, really excited when I show you the power of this. You're going to get really, really excited about it, and then you're going to leave here and you're not going to do a thing about it. So this is why I'm telling you, honestly, like come back to this class every time I teach it until it's working for you, because you're going to miss pieces of it, not intentionally, but meaning when I say you're going to miss it, tomorrow you're going to have forgotten some of the stuff we talk about. It's just the way it is. I would come and attend this. In fact, these classes that I'm teaching you guys in, the whole reason I eventually started teaching them is because somebody challenged me on this of you need to come to this particular class over and over and over again until you get it. And I did. And then it started to work, but I had attended the classes so kind of like I should just start teaching them because I had been so many times. Like that's kind of where you need to get to, because I'm going to get you really excited about it. But look at this. I want to be like the powerhouse that what I'm talking about, but it's just like the dice. It's just not going to happen overnight. You got to do some work to it. But from the moment that you get to this 6 to 9 months, you can be guaranteed a 6-digit income. Guaranteed over a 6-digit income. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove it to you. I'm not just making this stuff up. I'm going to prove it to you in a second. But it's going to take 6 to 9 months before that to happen. Now, the reason it's 6 to 9 months is it depends on you and who it is, meaning I don't just teach it as, hey, it's going to take 6 months, because some of you are going to have a good, solid sphere of influence that it might only take 6 months to get up and running. Others might say, I have nobody. Like, Anna, how long are you from New York? Yeah, but when did you came? You were an agent in New York. When did you move here?
Yeah, I was an agent, but I was starting the business there in January.
Oh, so you were brand new there in January. Oh, okay, good. So, but how long did you live in New York before you moved here?
I was back and forth, so I would go there, stay some time.
Oh, okay. So how long have you lived here?
Total of, I have been in Utah for
15 years. Okay. Sorry, Liz, I'm going to mute you. You can unmute if you need to, but we just keep hearing you cough. So, all right. Okay, so what I'm about to say probably doesn't apply to you. But occasionally I'll have somebody in class that's like, I haven't lived in Utah very long, so I don't have a sphere of influence. That person, it might take 9 months to get it up and running. So just keep in mind, this is a process, 6 to 9 months. But now watch. If for you guys online, I don't know how well you can see it, but see this line that I've drawn on here? What happens at first? The process I'm going to teach you, what happens at first? Pretty much it looks like nothing's happening. So keep in mind this bamboo, because this process works very similar to bamboo. Meaning, now the good news is it's months, not years, that this takes place. But like if we said this is 6 months, this is probably about 3 months, maybe 4, somewhere in the 3 to 4 months. During the first 3 to 4 months of you doing what I'm going to tell you to do, it's going to feel like it's not working. I'm doing everything Russ said, and it's not happening for me. Now, so keep in mind, this is why you've got to have more than one source of business. You've got to work more than one source. But your SOI needs to be your #1 source of business that you work. And if you will work it, doing it the way I'm going to show you, it will work. It's 100% guaranteed to work. But notice it's going to take 6 to 9 months before it really works. It may work along the way, and you'll see here, like there starts to be some lift off right here around 3 and 4 months. But it really takes off after that. And what I'm telling you is this is how it will work if you'll follow the process. But you got to follow the process. Now, I don't know if any of you that say, so Yvette, you said you watched on YouTube, Tashawn, you said you've attended, and Aaron says you have too. And I don't want to put pressure on you. Don't answer if you don't want to. But are you guys doing all 4 of the things that I'm going to tell you to do? Have you guys been doing it? And now, to some extent, you probably only watched it fairly recently, but are you doing all 4 of the things that I asked you to do? Because I'm going to give you guys 4 criteria, or I call them protocols, that you have to follow. So Yvette said not yet, and that's okay. Like she said not yet. That's the reason I say keep coming, because because probably the reason you're not, Yvette, is you've forgotten. It's like I said, you've forgotten the power of it. And so that's okay. And so I don't want you to feel bad, but now you understand why I'm telling you guys, if it is 100% guaranteed to work, but you got to go do it. So there's 4 things that I'm going to give you here in just a minute, but I want to make sure, yeah, Yvette said learning. Yeah, obviously, yeah, for sure. And I do not want to, take away anything from it, because that is a very normal thing. But if you'll just come to this class every time I teach it until it's working for you, it will work, guaranteed. Okay. All right. Now, so just keep in mind, this is what the process is going to look like. Now, I'm going to show you why and how and all that kind of stuff. So, but here's kind of the last thing I want to say before I start to get into the 4 criteria. So I'm going to give you 4 protocols. Protocols are required conditions. You have to do them. You can't round the corners. If you don't do it the way that I teach you to do it, then I can't guarantee it. But here's what I'll tell you. If you will do it exactly the way I teach you to do it, it will work. If you round corners on it, and there's one in particular that agents round the corner on, if you round the corner on, it's not going to work. And they only round the corner just because they forget. It's not because it's hard. They just forget it. Okay, so I'm going to give you 4 criteria. Now, let me make sure. I'm going to erase this, but I want to make sure I don't need to say anything else on it. Oh, the only thing I guess I would tell you, in real estate, there's no magic bean. There's no silver bullet. You guys are going to get hit up over and over again by people wanting you to spend money buying systems and this and that. And you're going to feel like, oh, maybe if I buy that system, there's no magic bean. There's no silver bullet. What it boils down to is you being willing to follow a process. And I'm going to give you the process. Okay. So the first thing, I've already started somewhat giving you #1. So on your sphere of influence, the #1 thing. So remember, I told you I'm going to give you 4 protocols. If you will follow these 4 things, it is 100% guaranteed to work. The first one is your sphere of influence has to be fixed in size. Or what we just talked about is it has to be a closed system. Now I'm going to explain what that means here in a second. It has to be a closed system. See, the way that most agents work their sphere of influence is they work it as an open system. Now, what you will hear, and I think there's some truth to this, but I also think that the bigger the numbers get, the more untrue it also is. Because what you're going to hear is you're going to hear this. You should be able to get 10 to 15% of the people in your sphere of influence to either do a transaction or refer a transaction to you. 10 to 15%. So what that means is if you have 100 people in a sphere of influence, that you should get 10 to 15 transactions. Now, here's the problem with that, though. I hear agents all the time talk about, I've got 2,000 people in my database or their sphere of influence. And then of that 2,000 people, that if that's true, that you should be doing 10 to 15%, they should be doing a minimum of 200 transactions a year. And they're not. And again, it's back to the same thing of you should be able to get 10 to 15%. Okay, great. But the problem is the bigger that number gets, the smaller the percentage of deals that you're going to do gets as well. Okay, so it's not actually a true 10 to 15%. But I'm going to actually teach you how to do it to where you can get a 60% return on your sphere of influence. And the reason that we can get a 60% return, see, like I said, people will typically say 10 to 15%. That's because they're working an open system. You guys already saw. In an open system, I should be able to roll a 1 out of 6 times. And you guys already saw I had to do it 12 times, one of them time to get it. That's an open system. See, in an open system, the more people they get in there, the lower the percentage of transactions they're going to do from it. Versus if we do it the way to work the sphere of influence as a fixed in size, then it will work. Now, I'm going to show you why that is right now. But the fixed in size, or this closed system, should be 200 people. Okay? So here's what I'm telling you, is if you guys want this to, hang on, let me see what, yeah, Aaron said, yeah, you hit a peak efficiency and it starts to decline. That's exactly right. That's what happens. And that's why you don't get a 10 to 15% return off of it, is because of that. Now, but, and you'll see why I'm going to say it needs to be 200 people in just a minute as we get to protocols 2 and 3. But it has to be fixed in size, and you should have 200 people in it. Now, the way I used to train this was that you had to start your sphere of influence at 200 people, which meaning, like, here's how I used to train. Go get the phone book, rip out Anderson's, and find 200 people with a, and I'm joking a little bit, but like go get a phone book and pull out 200 names out. That's how I said to start it to begin with. Today I'm saying let's ramp it up because there's really not much of a difference with that. But ramp it up. So start with people you know, but outside of that, go knock on doors, get on the phone and make phone calls. Like talk to people when you go to the grocery store, talk to people when you go out to eat, just talk to people, okay? Now, what you want to do is build it up to 200. So however many people you have that you would consider your SOI. Now, let me explain SOI. For me, your sphere of influence or an SOI would be if I called Anna on the phone and said, hey, Anna, this is Russ with Century 21, that she knows who I am. If I'm doing a random cold call and I said, hey, this is Russ with Century 21, they don't know who I am. So they're not in my sphere of influence. But if I could call somebody and they answered and I said, this is Russ with Century 21, and she would know who I was, that's sphere of influence, okay? So what you want to do is build that up to 200 people. Now, you could go as high as 300. Now, notice the real protocol on it is it just has to be fixed in size. So I'll explain more about what that means and how you work that in just a little bit. But for right now, just know it's got to be fixed in size and the number is 200. And the number is less important than the fixed in size, but it also has to be, like you couldn't say, great, I'm going to have a fixed in size and I want to have one person in my sphere of influence and I want to see how many transactions I'm going to do. Like you're not going to do that many off one person. Make sense? So it's got to be big enough in scale, but it can't be too big because of exactly what Aaron said is you're going to, now you can't effectively work it, which is why somebody with 4,000 people is not going to get 400 transactions, is because they're not going to effectively work that sphere of influence. And you'll see why, because they're not going to be able to do number 2 and 3 on you. Okay. All right. Actually, just number 2. All right. So it's got to be fixed in size. The number I'm telling you is 200. So you either got to, if you have more than that in your phone, you got to whittle it down to pick 200. But if you don't, then you got to build it up to 200. So but start with that. Okay. All right. So you got it fixed in size of 200. Now, let me show you the math on this of how it works. So I gotta get I'm gonna do a red and a green here along with this purple. And I don't know how well you guys are gonna be able to see it, but we're gonna do it. All right, so let me show you what this looks like and how this works. So let me explain here. So let's say, now, even though I just said 200, 200, 200, I'm gonna use 100 as an example. And I want to be really clear. I am not giving you permission to only have 100 people in your fixed in size. The number is 200. I'm just going to do 100 to show you how this works, okay? Because remember I showed you that it's going to take 6 to 9 months for it to start to work. Well, I'm going to show you why that is. Now, for the sake of time, we're going to accelerate it I'm going to accelerate it a little bit. because meaning you might not start out with it being as efficient as what I'm going to show it as, but for the sake of time, I'm going to put it to this. But it doesn't matter. You could start with 0 and it's okay. So I'm going to do green and red. Green is going to be somebody who will do business with you or refer it. Remember we saw on the NAR thing that your business is either referred to or is a friend, neighbor, or relative. That's green. Somebody who is not, we're going to call red. Okay. So of the 100 people that I have in my database or my sphere of influence, I'm going to say that just for the sake of making, so this doesn't take us all day to do, I'm going to say 50. The red's not working. We'll pretend this is red, even though it's pink. All right, we're going to say 50 are red and 50 are green. So if that's true, what's my percentage that's red and what's my percentage that's green? Yeah, see, I was going to say, now you know why I used 100 instead of 200, because I just make it that easy. So it's 50% red and 50% green. Now remember, green is somebody who's either going to do business with you or refer business to you, okay? So I've got 50% red and 50% green. Now let's say that I go prospect. Doesn't matter if I do an open house, doesn't matter if I knock on doors, cold call, you talk to somebody at the store, whatever. But I go talk to people and I get leads, okay? And I'm going to add those people in. Remember, we talked about over here, a prospect is becoming. So if I get a lead, I'm going to try to turn it into a client first. But if I can't turn them into a client, then I'm going to try to turn them into this SOI over here, okay? And if that doesn't work, then I'll just get rid of them altogether. But so keep in mind, when I get a lead, my first objective is to get them an appointment with them and have them be a client. But if I can't, then I may move them over to sphere of influence. So let's say that I go out and prospect and I do get 10 leads. Let's say that of those 10 leads, let's say that 7 of them are red, meaning, now let me explain, let me stop for a minute. Because sometimes people will say, well, if you got a lead and it's red, remember, what is red?
People that won't refer you.
Yeah, people that are not going to do business with you or refer it to you. Sometimes people will say, well, why would you add somebody that's red to your database? Well, see, here's the truth. When you got them as a lead, you didn't know they weren't going to. That you thought they were going to. It's just they ended up not. Okay, so let's say that of the 10 that I got, 7 of them are going to end up not doing anything with you, but you don't know that. And that 3 of them will. So I add 3 that are green and 7 that are red. Now, if I knew which of the 10 were going to be green, I would only add those 3. But the problem is you don't know who it's going to be. You just got 10 leads. And what I'm saying is, let's just say down the road that 3 of them are going to turn red and 7 of them are going to turn red and 3 of them are going to turn green. That make sense? Okay, now watch what happens, because this is the problem with an open system. Watch what happens. So I now have 53 green, 57 red, for a total of 110. Now, somebody got their phone, or maybe I'll just do it real quick on here. If you were to divide 57 into 110, comes out to be what percentage? Rounding it up, it's going to be 52%. Okay? So now, watch what happened here. If that's 52%, what's my green? 48%. Now, what just happened? So this is where I got to make sure that I'm not losing you guys in the math here, because I know some of you are really not excited much about math. So let me just make sure you understand. In fact, people have dropped off the Zoom. Now I'm offended. I'm just kidding. All right. What just happened?
Your ratio, people that won't refer you went up and people that will went down.
Yeah, so yeah, Nick just said it. So look what just happened is the percentage of people that are not going to refer me went up, and the percentage of people who are going to refer business or do business with me went down. This is the problem with an open system. What's going to happen if I just keep doing that?
It's going going opposite ways.
That's right. It keeps going the opposite direction of what we want to have happen. So that's the problem with an open system. But now remember, our first protocol is it has to be fixed in size. So for the sake of our demonstration, it can't be bigger than 100, but it's at 110. So what do I need to do?
Keep it fixed in size.
Yeah, I got to get it to 100. So which means I got to do what?
Boot 10 people out of that.
I got to boot 10 people out. Should I boot any of the greens out?
No.
Yeah, I don't want to boot out any of the greens. So I'm going to get rid of now. So now watch what happens. So now in order to fix this mess, I got to subtract 10, and I'm going to subtract 10 red, and we'll come back to that. And I'll explain how you know in a minute. So I'm now going to subtract 10. So now I have 47 red, 53 green for a total of 100 people. And what's my percentage now?
50-50?
Nope.
Oh, sorry.
47, 53. Look what just happened now. Now what happened?
Your green ratio is going up.
By adding 10 people and getting rid of 10 red, I just went from a 50-50 to a 47% red and 53%. I just improved my odds of doing a transaction. So now let's say I did it again and the same thing happens. Let's say I do it again and I add another 7 that are red. So now I'm 54. I add another 7 that are green. Or no, excuse me, 3 that are green. So now I'm at 56 here. Well, I got to do the same thing. I can't hold on to, I can't be at 110. So I got to subtract 10 again. So now I just went to 44, 56 for 100 total. And look what my percentage just did now. Now I'm at 56% green, 44% red. What's going to happen if every week I just keep doing this?
Just going to keep climbing in the greens that people that will refer are easy.
Yeah, and remember I said over here, you can get to where 60% of the people, and truthfully, you could actually get it higher than 60%. You're never going to get to 100% though. I've just found that you're never going to get to 100%. Because what's going to happen is along the way, I've had twice. So I'm going to share with you. In fact, I'll do it right now, and then I'll tell you the story. I've got a lady who I taught this system to, and I taught it to her close to probably 15 years ago. I bet she'd been an agent for about 15 years now. Her business is exclusively done this way, the way I'm teaching you. And her number of people, now remember I said it's got to be fixed in size. I'm telling you guys it needs to be 200. Once it's ramped up and it's working, once you're seeing, hey, all my business is coming out of this, you can change that number to anything you want to. And so what she did is she changed it from 200 to 97. And the reason she did it to that is I'll show you in protocol number 2 is why she went to that number. But she didn't go to that number till she had business flowing. With 97 people, the last I talked to her, which has been almost 5 years ago now, so, but we could look it up, I guess. With 97 people, though, she was making over $300,000 a year, working this system and that's it. That's all she does, is works this system. And she was doing over $300,000 a year. Now, and let me, actually, I left out the best part. While she was doing that, early on, let's say $250,000 to $300,000 a year at that time. She had young kids, so she would work 20 hours a week. So she was making $250,000 plus a year working 20 hours a week. And she had an assistant that worked the other 20 hours. So she was putting in a 40-hour work week, but it was paying somebody else to do all the clerical side of the stuff. Now, I've got one other guy that learned this system right before I started to train. So I had been trained in it, but I wasn't training it yet when he went through it. So I was in the class because I told you guys I was going all the time. So the business was doing and working for me. This guy today, I talked to him within the last year. I talked to him. He's making over $600,000 a year working this system, doing just this. So it works. If you will do it, it will work. Now, so if I just continue to keep doing that, adding people in and then getting rid of the red, it continues to get better and better and better. And once you hit 60% green is when you're going to count on, I'm telling you, you'll be making over $200,000 a year. I said a 6-digit income, but it's going to be over $200,000 a year, which is a 6-digit income technically. But all right, does that make sense? Any questions on this fixed in size piece? Okay. Anybody, you guys online? I'm just going to assume if you don't respond, no questions. I'll give you a second. And if you do, unmute and interrupt me. All right, next then. The next piece of this. So the second protocol. So number one is it has to be fixed in size. The number two on this is similar to what we talked about prospects here, is you have to have contact with all 200 people. You need to have contact with them one time per month, personal, and one time with email or mail. Okay, so the second protocol, and remember, you got to do these things or it won't work. You've got to have contact with them once a month, personal contact. So that means either you talk to them in person, you talk to them on the phone, or a text will count as long as they reply to your text. If you text them and they don't reply back to your text, that doesn't count as a personal contact. But if they do text you back, that counts as a personal contact. So you got to have personal contact with them once a month. So either in person, over the phone, or a text if they reply back. And you got to send them either a mail or an email once a month. Okay? Now, occasionally people will ask me, what should I mail? And my recommendation on that is something real estate related. It really doesn't matter. Just something that shows you are the real estate expert. Now, for me personally, the way I like to do it is to send them, if you use our Zap system and you get them set up on Zap and have them put in what's called a home value update, then what'll happen is it will be automatically sending to them the homes that are for sale in the area. Which, Brianna, I did get the email from Jeanette yesterday. I just haven't gotten back to you yet because I was off yesterday. Okay. So I'll help you with that on Zap. But if I were you guys, I would get them put into Zap, and I would get them set up on a home value updates or home value alerts. I can't remember which it's called, but I think it's home value updates. Because what it's going to send to them is the homes that are for sale in their area. If you will get that sent out to these people with, hey, here's the homes that are available in your area. But again, I don't really care what you send to them, just needs to be real estate related so that they look to you as being the real estate expert. You could just send to them if you wanted, here's how many homes sold in this whatever city or the county that you're in. Like, honestly, it almost doesn't matter. What you just want it to be is something that they relate to you as being the real estate expert. That's really all that matters. In fact, I read an article one time about a lady that would send out recipe cards, and there's a lot of agents that will do that, send out recipe cards, or even actually people that will give to their sphere of influence a calendar with their picture on it, or a fridge magnet that they put on the fridge. I've listed a lot of homes that had some other agent's fridge magnet on the fridge and a calendar hanging on the wall. So just doing that isn't going to get you business. You also got to have the personal contact attached to it. But I heard a story about a lady that was mailing these recipe cards. She gets a phone call from one of the people she was mailing the recipe cards to and says, I love these recipe cards that you send, and I want to keep getting them, but I have moved. I bought a new house, and I wanted to give you my new address. See, she related to her as the recipe card lady, so she listed and sold her house to somebody else, but still wants the recipes. That you don't want that in your business. So you need to send something real estate related. So that's number two. All right, number three. The number three, and maybe I might start reordering these. I always do this one as number three, and I probably should do it as number two, actually, as I think about it. But that's okay. Number three protocol is you have to have permission. Every one of those 200 people that you put in your database or into your sphere of influence, you have to get permission from them to be in your database. Now, let me show you what that looks like. But you want to have permission from every one of those people that you're going to put in the database. And so here's how I do it. You'll hear me talk about it in a different class about you should always be prospecting on 2 parallel tracks, looking for now business and future at the same time. Here's how you do it. So let's say, Nick, that I call you on the phone. Okay, so let's do a role play of me calling you on the phone. So he answers the phone. Hey, this is Russ with Century 21. We just listed your neighbor's home over here. It's listed for X price, and it's got this many beds and baths. Who do you know that wants to move into the area?
No one at the moment.
Okay, well, how about you? When do you plan on moving?
Not entirely sure yet.
Okay, so let's just to speed it up, I would sit and ask him a bunch more questions, but he keeps I keep asking, well, when can we get together and talk about real estate? And you say, we're not planning on doing anything, whatever, right? So he's shut me down 2 or 3 times, let's say, okay? So now I'm not gonna get any now business from him. So now I wanna add people to my database, because remember, I wanna get to 200 people. So when I go out, any prospecting that I do, if I'm on the phone, I'm knocking on doors, whatever, I'm first looking for an appointment, but in the event I can't get an appointment, I wanna add them to my database. So let me show you so let's assume I couldn't get the appointment. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna say, Nick, I've got a select group of people, and that's the way I like to say it, so maybe put that in your notes. I have a select group of people. The reason I say it as a select group of people is because it makes them feel special, okay? I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with for the purposes of real estate or something like that. But what matters is that you just say, I've got a select group of people and I'd like to add you to the list. So I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with about real estate. I'd like to add you to that list. Something along those lines, okay? I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with about real estate. I'd like to add you to that list. Or group, or however you want to say it. So I've got a select group of people that I stay in touch with about real estate. I'd like to add you to that list. All right. Yeah, Tushwan just said that doing the home value updates requires an address, which is correct. So you need their address. Okay. Now, so I've said that. So role play it with me. Okay. So Nick, I've got a select group of people that I just stay in touch with to keep them updated about real estate. I'd like to add you to that list. Would that be okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So what that means is I would be just sending you an email just once a month with some information about what's going on in your local real estate area, so in your neighborhood, keeping you updated on that. So what's the best email address to send that to you?
Oh yeah, it's nickmansfield@gmail.com.
Okay, so bam, he gives me his email address, so now I've got that. And what phone number would it be best for me to just check in with you from time to time?
Oh yeah, 801-777-777.
Okay, boom. So now I got his phone number. Now, if I'm knocking on doors, I don't even need to ask for the address because I'm there. But otherwise, I would just say, in order for me to send you a market update of what's going on, let me get your address from you. What's your address? And then bam, he gives me the address. Okay. So now I've gotten his information. Now, just stop and think for a minute. Here's how you want to do this. If I just did that over the phone with him, and I got his email address, his phone number, and his home address, which is great, immediately, like when I hang up that phone or at the end of my prospecting, either way you want to do it, sometimes I just recommend doing it at the end of your prospecting because it's too easy to let it distract us from prospecting. But at the end of your prospecting, stop and write a thank you card. Hey, it was great talking to you. Here's one of my business cards so that you know how to get a hold of me. I'll be in touch. Send them something in the mail. I don't know about you guys, but like number one, we hardly even ever check our mail, but maybe once or twice a week. But when I go check the mail and there's actually like a handwritten card in there, I'm kind of excited to open it and see who it's from and what it's about. So part of why we want to do that is people don't get handwritten cards anymore. And so if you just wrote a thank you card, so get a supply of thank you cards. And I would my recommendation is do 5 a day. Just find 5 people a day that you can send a thank you card to for something. And just write them a card and say, hey, it's nice talking to you. Thank you for being willing to be in my select group of people. I mean, whatever you want to write it, but then send it to them. The reason I'm going to do that is because I don't want the chances that they remember that conversation even 24 hours later, that they even remember who I am, not very good. So I want to get that in the mail to them so that within a couple of days, They're opening it, going, oh yeah, that was that guy I talked to, or that lady I talked to on the phone. Okay. Then I would also recommend doing some type of an email to them as well, of letting them know, hey, I got your information, I got it set up, and you'll be hearing from me, something like that. Okay. So early on with those people, you're going to want to have a little more contact than with the people who are in your phone who already know who you are. Okay. All right. So that's what that looks like. But permission, so permission from somebody you don't know is just, I've got a select group of people, I'd like to add to that list. Would that be okay? They say yes, get their information, they're added to the list. Permission from the people you do know. So now, Nick, let's say you and I are acquaintances from some other work that we worked together 5 years ago or something, okay? So now here's the good news. Like right now is a great opportunity still to contact some of these people that are in your phone you maybe haven't talked to forever, or you worked with, or whatever. So this is how I'm going to do it. So ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, is this Nick?
Yeah, this is.
Hey, Nick, this is Russ Orchard. I don't know, do you remember me from working at XYZ, wherever we worked?
Oh, yeah, how you been?
Hey, I'm good. Hey, I just decided I was going to go through everybody on my phone and check on them, see how they're doing through this pandemic. How are you doing?
Hanging in there.
Good. So work still going well, and
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Cool. What are you doing for work?
Working on cars right now.
Oh, you're working on cars, really? So is that something you've been doing since we last worked together? Or?
Oh, yeah. Pretty
Okay,
good.
so clearly I'm going to sit and talk to him about him and his family and work and all that kind of stuff. Guess what he's going to ask me?
What are you doing for work?
Oh, yeah, so I'm selling real estate now. So I'm going to first see if he'll ask me first. But if he doesn't ask me, then I'm just going to go, hey, that's awesome. Well, hey, I don't know if you had heard or not, but I actually went and got my real estate license not long ago. And one of the things I've learned in class, which you guys can use this, is that the best way I can do business is by referral. So I want to build my business. Now, for you guys that are online that have been agents for a while and you call those people, I would just call them and just do the, hey, checking in, how you doing? And then I would say this. So if you've been in the business for a while, instead, your phone call is going to sound like this. Nick, hey, I know you probably know that I've been an agent for the last 20 years. I've decided because of this pandemic, I want my business to be primarily referral dependent. I want to build it to be based on referral. So I'm looking to put together a select group of people that I will just stay in touch with about real estate, that I either can help them, or if they hear of somebody, they would refer to me. I would love to add you to that list. Would that be okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
That's what you're going to get as a response. But if they tell you no, that's okay too. Like, then you just move on, okay? So a no is not a bad thing when it comes to this. If they say no, don't worry about it. But permission. So listen, all 200 people, you have to call and get permission from them. Now, once you have permission, it's okay up here on this contact part to leave a voicemail. Or I would even say, even sending a text to them that they don't reply to is okay as well, counts, if you have gotten permission from them. Now, with that being said, though, even though I said you can leave them a voicemail or you do a text that they don't reply to, in the event you go 3 months, and you can decide differently than if you want to. This is just how I did. If after 3 months or 3 tries of contacting them, I get no response, the 4th month is going to sound like this. So I'm going to do it as if it's a voicemail to Nick, but I could also do it as a text message as well. So this is what it's going to be like. So I call, ring, 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 ring. He doesn't answer. Voicemail picks up. Hey, this is Nick. I'm going to say, Nick, this is Russ Orchard with Century 21. I've got a really important question for you. Give me a call. Now remember, this is after 3 months of no response. So on the 4th month, I'm going to do, hey, I've got a really important question for you. Give me a call. Now, if he calls me, what's my really important question? Because that's usually the question you guys have for me. What's my really important question when Nick calls me?
Does he want to stay on your referral list?
Perfect. That's exactly right. Ultimately, what I would be saying is when he called me back, hey, Russ, this is Nick. What's up? Hey, I just hadn't heard from you for a while. I just want to make sure you're still okay with me staying in touch with you about real estate, sending you the information, all that kind of stuff. Is that still okay?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, perfect. As long as he says, he'll probably say, yeah, I've just been so busy lately, I just haven't had a chance to call you back. He'll say something along those lines, which what will happen then when that when he does that and says, yeah, I've just been so busy, I just haven't had a chance. Hey, no worries. I just wanted to make sure you're still okay with it. So that leads into protocol number 4, which I'm going to say more in a second. But so the same thing with a text. Hey, I've got a really important question for you. Give me a call. See, I want them to call me, not be a text. So if I send a text, I've got a really important question for you. Give me a call when you get a second. When they call me, I'm just saying, hey, are you still okay if I stay in touch with you? Because I just want to verify that the reason I'm not hearing from them is because they're not really interested in doing anything real estate related right now, or they've just been really busy. I want to make sure it's not because they don't want my information. If they don't want my information, I want to know that. Okay? All right. Any questions on any of that so far?
Could you just read me what you have in that last column so I can make sure I have it written down?
Yeah, sure. So number 1 is fixed in size, and it's 200 people.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 is contact 1 time per month personal and 1 time per month email. And then the 3rd is permission. You have to have permission. Cool. All right, number 4. And again, I'm writing this last one is pink instead of red, but I'm going to say it's red, okay? Actually, before I even give it to you, what's the purpose of my phone call? When I said I want to talk to them once a month, personal, what's the purpose of that personal contact? When I'm contacting them on once a month, what's the purpose of it?
About knowing if there's like how what stage they are.
Okay, so Anna's saying it's to figure out where they're at in the process. Okay, what do the rest of you think? What's the purpose of it?
Keep you fresh in their minds that you're a real estate agent.
Okay, good. Any other thoughts? Any other thoughts? This is counterintuitive. Okay, so keep in mind, it's counterintuitive, which means it's the opposite of what you would think. So why would you think you're calling? Why do you think you're calling?
Check up on them, see if they're looking to buy or sell or know anyone.
And I'm telling you, it's the opposite of that. So what would you be calling for? Okay, watch this. Remember over here, we have red and green?
Oh.
I'm calling, looking for the reds. See, we would think that we're purpose of our phone. What you guys said to me is I'm calling to look for the greens. You didn't say it that way, but that's what you were saying, is that I'm calling looking for the greens. I'm calling to find people who are going to do business or refer it to me. And I'm telling you, it's the opposite of that. You're calling to find out who's not going to do it. Now, why? Why am I calling looking for the red, not looking for green? Okay, good. Yeah, so Anna's saying because I want to get rid of the reds. Good. Why else though? There's more to it.
Also, if I want them to convert them green, if I want them to.
Okay, so she's saying I might want to convert them to green. But see, remember I said there's one of the protocols that you are going to forget and you'll round the corners on? This one's it. If you start calling people looking for green or trying to make them green, it won't work. You have to call, I should have brought some water in here. You have to call looking for the reds. I'm calling looking for the people who aren't going to do business with me or refer it to me. Now let me explain what that means. If I'm calling looking for a green, and somebody is red, meaning they're not going to refer business or do business with me, typically we don't want to hear that. Most agents would not want to hear from somebody, don't ever call me again, or no, I'm never going to refer anybody to you, I hate you, whatever. Like, we don't want to hear that. So because of that, we don't want, let me say it differently. We don't want to be rejected. And because we don't want to be rejected, we call and we'll soften it and we'll ask questions in such a way and people don't want to be rude either, actually, is part of it too. And so what'll happen is they'll keep pretending that they're going to refer business to you when they're not. See, part of the secret to this working is when you're making this phone call once a month, the whole purpose of this phone call is to figure out who's red and who's not red. Now, why? Why would I not worry about the green? Somebody online. Why would I not worry about the green?
Because they're green.
Okay, so but why would I not worry about that? You're right on. Why? So why do I not have to worry about it?
Because you've hooked them already.
Say that again, Tim.
I say you've hooked them already.
Yeah, and so what will they do?
Well, hopefully they're going to refer a bunch of friends and make you a bunch of money.
Okay, good. That's exactly right. Here's the thing. The green will take care. So I'm going to say the same thing, Tim. I'm going to say it a little different. The green will take care of themselves. When the green has somebody to refer, they're going to refer. When the green wants to sell their house or buy it, or buy a house, they're just going to call me and say, come list my house. Come help me. Like, even still today, I am not following these protocols because my emphasis is the training. So I'm not out trying to generate deals right now. But I will tell you, I still have people that will call me and say, come list my house. Help me buy it. Like, I got a text yesterday from a friend of mine's son that just said, hey, I was talking to my dad and he told me to call you about buying a house. Like, the greens take care of themselves. So the purpose of our phone call is to figure out who the reds are so we don't have to call them anymore. So let me show you what I mean. Remember this dice that I did and I put the stickers on it? The purpose of the calling to find out who's red is so I can put a sticker on the dice, basically. What I want to do is eliminate the people out of here who are never going to refer anybody to me. And because we didn't talk about this, what happens if I had 200 people and I call through? So watch, let me show you what I mean. Anna, be red. Okay, so you're red. When I call you, tell me basically don't ever call you again or something. Okay, so hey Anna, this is Russ with Century 21. How you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
I'm great. Hey, I just was calling to see if you had any real estate questions.
Not really. No, I don't.
Okay. Well, anything that I can help you with or anyone you know?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, but you're supposed to tell me to never call you.
Right. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah.
See, she doesn't even want to say it in a role play. She's proving the point of what I'm trying to tell you guys. People don't want to be rude and tell you, don't call me again. Tell me, don't call me again.
Don't call me again, damn it.
Okay, thanks, Tim. Tim will do it. Tim will role play it with me. Okay. Hey, so Tim, it sounds like you would prefer that I not stay in touch with you anymore. Did I understand you correctly?
Yes, you understand English very well.
Perfect. Hey, I will gladly take you off the list, and I apologize if it's been any type of a burden. If things change down the road, let me know.
I will. I love you too.
Okay, thanks. Bye. Now, notice that. If I'm calling looking for a green and he told me don't ever call me again, damn it, what am I going to feel like? If I'm looking for the green, what am I going to feel like?
Crap.
Yeah, I'm going to feel like crap. I got rejected. But if I'm looking for the red and he tells me that, now what? Yes. Yeah, I can cross it. I get a free throw. I don't ever have to call Tim again to deal with it. Does that make sense? I get a free throw. Now, let's go look at protocol number 1. Fixed in size. I just went from 200 to 199. What do I got to do?
Find a green.
Add another one.
Yeah, add another one, not green. It doesn't matter because I don't know. The truth is you don't know if they're red or green until they've been in there for a while. So I just have to add another one. I don't worry about if they're red or green or not at first. I just need to add one. And here's the thing. Somebody who says, don't ever call me again, damn it. Or somebody that said, yes, you can stay in touch with me. Which would you rather have? Yeah.
The honest one.
Yeah. No matter, well, no, I don't want him anymore because yes, I get where you're saying the honest one, but but he can't be in my group anymore because he told me never call him again. So I got to replace him. And anyone I replace him with is going to be better than him because they're more likely to refer somebody than he is. And so every time I do that, I'm improving this. Okay. So here's the last thing that I want to hit on with you guys, and then we'll wrap up here. How else do I know if someone's red? Because that's the purpose of my phone call, is to find the red. How else do I know?
If they've been communicating with you or not.
Okay, good. So part of it is if I call Nick and I say, I've got a really important question for you, give me a call, and he never calls me back, guess what? He's red. Because if I said to somebody, I've got a really important question, and they aren't willing to call me back, they're also telling me they're red. How else would I know? I mean, well, obviously, if they just tell me, like Tim did, don't ever call me again. The next way I would know is you drive by their house and somebody else's for sale signs out front. They're red. Like, ultimately, the other way I'm going to know is if I call. So if I call Nick and I say, hey, Nick, this is Russ with Century 21. How's it going? And he's like, good. Well, hey, I just want to make sure you're getting emails. Yep. All right, well, how's your family? Good. Like, as soon as they start acting like that, in my mind, I'm starting to think he might be red. So as a result, I'm going to take it head on. And so I then loop back up to permission, basically, and I'm just going to say, Nick, hey, I just wanted to check with you and make sure, are you still okay with me sending you the information and stay in touch with you about real estate?
No.
Yeah, see, again, if you're looking for green, you would never do that. But if you're looking for red, I'm going to go give them permission to be red. Now, I'm not going to give every single person permission every time, but just when I start to notice, I wonder if he's not as interested in this, then I just ask, hey, are you still okay with me staying in touch with you? Yeah, it's fine. Well, look, hey, I mean, I want to if you're interested, but if you're not interested, like, I would rather you just tell me, don't send it to me anymore. See, give them permission to go, yeah, I mean, it's probably a waste of your time. Perfect. Because now I just found a red. I just improved my odds. Because now I can go replace them with somebody else. All right, let me tell you the last way that you're going to know that they're red. Is they're in your database, and you pull up your list of people to call today, and when I look at it and I see their name and I go, oh, it's Tim. I got to call Tim today. I don't want to call Tim. If I see that, he's red. Like, if you should be seeing these names and being like, maybe not necessarily excited, but like, hey, yeah, no, yeah, cool. I get to call them. Like, you don't have to be excited about it, but if you look at it and have any like, I'm going to put it off, they're red. They're red. Get rid of them. That's the good news. See, that's why this works so well. When you see one that you're like, I don't feel like calling that person, take them off. Just remove them and go put somebody else in that you don't mind calling. Like, that's the good news about it. It doesn't have to be a painful thing. In fact, it should get to the point where, hey, like, I'm actually kind of excited to call these people because either they give me a referral or just I enjoy talking to them, whatever it is. But that's what you want to do. And you're slowly just improving it to where you're going to get more and more business. All right. What questions did I not answer for you? Nothing? I did that good? All right. Well, here's the deal then. I would highly, highly, highly recommend the next time I teach this, which will probably be about 3 months from now, that you come and attend again. Because I promise you, the piece that most people will miss is that red. Even though I just barely got done explaining it to you, I promise you, you'll forget. Because it's just human nature to want to call looking for the green, not looking for the red. And so you'll get to where you're calling looking for green, not looking for red. And we want to call looking for the red. And if you call looking for the green, it'll quit working for you because you'll end up with a bunch of people that are red in there. And you won't ever be replacing people. And it just won't be as effective for you as what it could be. So anyway.
Hey, Russ.
Yeah.
Hey, I see on the board, it's kind of blurry on the Zoom, but I missed, is number 4 looking for the red?
Yep. Yeah. The purpose of the call is look for the red.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. So in fact, let me just give you the 4 again, just make sure. So fixed in size is the main thing, but 200 is the number. Contact them once a month personal and once a month email. Get permission. And then number 4 is call that once a month call. The purpose of it is to find the reds. All right. Well, thank you for all being here. So no class on Thursday. I was actually supposed to be out of town, and so I don't have anything scheduled. But I tell you what I will do if you guys want to is I'll still plan on Thursday coming and do like a call around or even just kind of a like, what do you want help with? And we'll just talk about whatever. Like, I'm happy to do that. So I'll plan on still being in the room, and use the same link. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've got it to where now every Tuesday and Thursday, it's this same link. So you can just use the same one. And on Thursday, I'll just be here. And if nobody shows, that's fine too. But I'm just going to be here and I'll be, what do you want help with? And we'll talk about whatever. Sound good?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, cool. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yvette, yeah, you can come to the office on Thursday. I'll just plan on being in this room, so that'll work.